afternoon, everybody. How's the conference going for y'all? That's good. My name's Marlene Mathias. I'm part of the speaker committee, and I have the pleasure of introducing Wendy Quan. I'm not best on names here. And this is going to be a very unusual, good session. You guys will enjoy it. It's on medication. And Wendy, a day hardly goes by where she don't see the subject of mindful meditation in the media. There's growing buzz about mindfulness at work, but we're going to go beyond topic that's in this session. Wendy is here to talk about not just about mindfulness at work, but about the power of integrating change management with mindfulness meditation. We are lucky to have Wendy here, who is a founding member of ACMP and is a thought leader worldwide with her knowledge of combining change management and meditation. She also has a winning white paper on the subject with ACMP. After taking the leap from the corporate world, Wendy now has her own business called The Calm Monkey. She is a conference speaker and has clients worldwide from California to Dubai. She has presented and taught her course at the Greater Good Science Center of UC at Berkeley. Her passion on this subject is so strong that she even had an EEG brain scan to see the effect of meditation on her brain. So let's all welcome Wendy.
Thank you, Marlene. You're welcome. Thank you, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for choosing to be here. I know it's a busy conference and it's late in the afternoon, so I appreciate that you're here. I'm really happy to be here today. This is my fourth time speaking for ACMP on this really trending, exciting topic of mindfulness at work. But I want to talk about not just that, but also how to combine change management and mindfulness meditation. So that's what we're here today to hear about. Before I start, I'd like to have a show of hands for a few things here. How many people have a personal mindfulness practice right now? Thank you. And how many people have a personal meditation practice? And how many people aren't really sure what the difference is? Because I know, and I will be explaining that. My next question for you is, how many people are interested or curious about starting up mindfulness at their workplace? Wow, that's great. So you're in the right place. Thank you so much. Now, may I ask you to stand, please? Everybody stand up. You won't be doing anything embarrassing. That's okay. Now, I'd like you to stay standing if you've ever had any kind of mindfulness activity at work. So that might have been inviting a speaker to come in, or doing a course on mindfulness, or an ongoing practice. If you've had any activity like that, please stay standing and sit down if you have not. Thank you. How interesting. Every year, year over year, there's more people standing. So that's great. And for those of you standing, how many of you have an ongoing practice at work? Some sort of mindfulness or meditation practice on an ongoing basis? If not, please sit down. And there's a few standing. Thank you. Can I just hear which organizations they are, if you don't mind? Which?
I work for a small financial services.
Okay. And you've got something going on regularly there?
On a personal basis.
Oh, a personal basis. Okay, thank you. Any other companies that you'd like to mention?
I work at a company in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, in Saudi Arabia. Welcome. Thank you. Yeah, how about one more?
I work for Vanguard, which is a financial services company.
Vanguard Financial Service. Thank you. Okay, you can have a seat. Thank you very much. That was a good indication. So my name is Wendy Quan, and I'm the founder of my little business called The Calm Monkey. I took a big leap last year. So my whole life I've been in corporate jobs, in IT and HR, organizational development. I was the change manager at Pacific Blue Cross in Vancouver, Canada for 9 years. And last August I took the leap and I quit my corporate job because I've been doing this kind of work, which is helping organizations start up mindfulness programs from a business perspective, and measuring those results and having really successful programs internally. I also train passionate meditators, people who have a personal or meditation or mindfulness practice, and teach them how to become facilitators in their workplace, how to start up that in their company, how to get management support, and how to measure your results from a business perspective. So that's my passion. I decided to do that. I just figured life is short, and I want to really make a difference in the world. And my goal, my overarching goal, is really to help people create a better experience of life. So think about just that just for a moment, helping to create a better experience of life, in particular at work, because work is really difficult for people, isn't it? So we're going to be talking about mindfulness and meditation. I'm just going to be defining that really quickly for you. We're going to talk about the workplace adoption status, like where are we in the world right now, like what companies are doing this and how much has it really been adopted. Some real results. A lot of you probably read in the paper about this all the time, but I'm going to show you some real results from real companies and what's happened there. And then I'm going to be talking about specifically how to add change management to meditation. And we are going to be doing a quick, maybe about a 5-minute experiential meditation, so I hope you look forward to that. And it's a specialized meditation that I've created and I've done studies on, and it's specific to change management, helping people through change. So I'm going to be asking you to be mindful for this session. So, turn off your cell phones, but be very present and open-minded and non-judgmental about what we're going to be talking about. I'd like you to be very curious. So as I talk about these things, I'd like you to think about how it can apply to you personally, but also how can you help other people with what you already know about mindfulness and meditation. Now I put this in the app. I don't know if any of you saw it. I was interviewed recently by SAP's Digitalist magazine, which is an executive magazine. And the interview hasn't been published yet, but it will be. The title of the article is going to be, Change Management is Dead. Now, if you're like me, I know eyebrows are raising, like, what? Did I miss something in the news or something? And so I was really intrigued, so I decided to do that interview. So I'll talk about it in a few moments. But of course, like I said, it really caught my attention. So I'd like to briefly just define the differences and similarities between mindfulness and meditation, just so we're on the same wavelength. Now, this is a very simplified description of it. So meditation, on one hand, I call it like hitting the pause button during the day, carving out a little bit of time during the day, and that can be as little as 5 minutes, or it can be 30 minutes or an hour, whatever you'd like it to be. And you sit down and you close your eyes and you do a meditation that you've been taught to do. Okay? Now, meditation is really misunderstood and it's mispronounced a lot. People call it medication, and mediation I get a lot. But basically, the biggest myth of meditation is that you sit down, you close your eyes, and you become this blissful person, and nothing bothers you, and you have no emotions anymore. And that's the farthest thing from the truth. And when you start trying meditation, what happens is your mind is just racing around, and you're finding that you can't concentrate on the topic that you're supposed to concentrate on, and then you deem yourself as a failure. So I want to mention that because it's a really important thing about meditation. Meditation is about concentrating, and it's about observing what your mind is doing and knowing that you have a human mind that wanders. And when it wanders during your meditation, you just acknowledge that it's wandered, you notice that, and then you bring your focus back to the meditation. Now, there's many different kinds of meditation. There's moving meditation. So that includes yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong and things like that, even walking meditation. Okay, so that's meditation. Mindfulness, on the other hand, is about being present and being in the now. I mean, how many people have heard those terms? A lot, right? Being present and being in the now. And basically it means whatever you're doing in the present moment, you're paying attention to that 100%. So you're here right now, and I'm hoping that you're listening to me and paying attention and not thinking about something else. But I do know that you have a human mind that's going to wander too. But we can train our minds to concentrate better. Mindfulness is about being present and being as non-judgmental as possible. I like to say this phrase, if you don't judge, you can't get frustrated. Isn't that a kind of a, if you don't judge, you can't get frustrated. We get frustrated in our lives because we expect things to be a certain way, right? So if you start to practice non-judgment, life becomes better. Now, where the two come together, because you hear the term mindfulness meditation a lot, it just simply means that you could be doing a meditation that keeps you in the present moment. So you could be doing a breath meditation, which is very present. You can use meditation to be mindful. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, thank you. So I'd like to show you a brief video clip. It's just about a minute or so. And the fellow that you're going to see talking talks about his stressful job and how mindfulness has changed his experience of life. So it's about a policeman. So as you watch this, please try to pick out the key messages, okay?
What was I like before meditation? I was a bit of a jackass. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. It gives you that pause. And I know I have a lot of people that will say, well, no, we have to be in this tactical advantage and we can't be vulnerable. But mindfulness can still bring you to a place where you can still have that pause prior to going into that interaction. And it's just, a lot of people talk, it's the anchoring of the breath. We used to use fitness as a way of dealing with a lot of our internal issues, but it wasn't really dealing with our mind. We'd feel great after that run or that workout, but we were still dealing with the thoughts and the feelings that were attached with whatever call we were going to.
Unresolved thoughts lead to pent-up emotions.
How can I deal with someone else's mental health issues if our own mental health issues aren't taken care of? I strongly believe in this. I think this is, no, actually it's not that I think, I know this is a new way of doing this job that has provided myself and my family so many great things, and being able to give back to the community is a big part. Hold, 1, 2. If all of our recruits are getting this type of awareness training, we have systemic organizational change.
Whether you're in uniform or not, mindful meditation helps us break down barriers and allows us to see each other as human beings first.
Isn't that powerful? And imagine the stress of a policeman's job. If a policeman can do it, change managers can do it too, right? So what are the key messages that you saw in that? Here are the ones that I found. That you must take care of your own mental wellness, your own mental health, before you can help other people. You have to be grounded. You have to be centered and present. And the more you're present, the more you can connect with people at a human level. You can use mindfulness to create a different experience of your life and have a different experience of your job. And he said, if everyone had this training, we can have systemic organizational change. That's a big statement. Powerful, right? But I believe it's true. Can you imagine if everybody was more mindful? How everything at work would be different, right? And again, as you've heard, it starts with us. It starts with us first. If we can do it, more people will then do it. So I'd like to share with you my personal story, because I always say, I never thought I'd be standing up here talking to people about something like this. My whole life I've had corporate jobs, and my whole life previously, anyway, I was a real stressed out person. I'm a really type A personality. I'm so driven. I don't know where it comes from, but it's there. And I didn't realize how much of a problem that was to be so stressed out until I got a cancer diagnosis in year 2010. So, and as things happened, this happened to come at the hardest time of my life. I got a cancer diagnosis. My dad had just had a serious heart attack, waiting for quadruple bypass surgery, and my mom was going through cancer, and I was the caregiver for both parents, and then I get a diagnosis. So as you can imagine how hard that was. But I think it was day 2 after my diagnosis that I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, Wendy, you're a change manager. You should know how to deal with this. So those of you that have been trained in change management, you know that the thing you have control over is your own reaction to something you have no control over. So I decided at that point in time not to be a victim and to change my lifestyle. I made lots of different changes, but mindfulness meditation became the cornerstone of my journey through cancer and even my resilience today. I dove deep, as Marlene was saying, I dove deep into learning about mindfulness meditation. I read lots of research. I practiced a lot every day. I even had my brain scanned because I needed that data to tell me that, you know, I do feel better, but is it real? Yes, it's real. So I went back to work after the cancer treatment, and at that time I was working at Pacific Blue Cross in Vancouver. And what had happened is 12 of my friends said, "Wendy, would you teach us what you know?" And I thought, you know, who am I to do that? I just have my own practice. But then we did it. It was really behind closed doors. This was in 2011. So it's not something people spoke about back then, right? And we found a meeting room with no windows. And I sat there with the 12 of them, and after I developed a curriculum and taught them what I knew, and after a few weeks it was really obvious that it was helping people so much on a personal and a work basis. And we opened up the invitation to the whole organization. So Pacific Blue Cross has 730 people. I'd like to show you what happened. So we started in 2011 with 12 people, and I opened up the invitation not knowing if I would get laughed out of the company or not. And look what happened. After a few years, it peaked out at 26%. That's 180 people coming to, I was running a weekly 30-minute session at lunchtime, just once a week. And 180 people were coming on a drop-in basis. You never make it mandatory, but drop-in when people have time, they come. And that's how this all started. And then I started offering this to other Vancouver organizations, and now I've got clients worldwide. I've got Google as a client, which is amazing, because you may know that Google was the first company to start this. And the government of Dubai and the Cincinnati Health Department, I've got individuals around the world who are learning to do this in their own company. So that's how it all got started. Now, mindfulness keeps me resilient, and I've got another example to show you. Less than 3 weeks ago, I came home late at night, and I live in a high-rise concrete building. This is what I came home to. There's no sound. I took this with my cell phone camera. That burning suite was my next door neighbor's suite. I know, I'm reliving it right now. And, you know, I couldn't believe it. So I was standing outside with all of my neighbors. Some people were panicking, and anyway, so not knowing if I even had a home. I didn't know, because this was going on. The fire chief said to me that night, he says, "I can give you no information about your suite," even though they had gone into my suite. "Just get a hotel for the night and come back tomorrow." So that's what I was told. And so for 24 hours, I didn't know if I had a home or not. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because when you create a mindfulness meditation practice in your life, it creates this kind of a blanket of calm. So you do have ups and downs, but instead of it being like this, it's kind of more like this, if that makes sense. So absolutely, I was scared, I was anxious, I couldn't believe what was going on. But it wasn't that bad. It could have been a lot worse from my perspective. Now, mindfulness from my neighbor's perspective would have been to grab the fire extinguisher that was right outside her suite and use it. She panicked, and she didn't do that. She even had a fire extinguisher in her suite and didn't think to use it. So the point being, you know, if you panic when things like this happen, you can't think straight. And mindfulness for me was, when I was standing outside, helping people that seemed to need help. Like there were some people that were scared, some people that didn't speak English, so I helped them understand what was going on. And mindfulness was also not worrying so much about what if I don't have a home. So instead being very present and not trying to project ahead and worry about something that hasn't even happened yet. Okay? So let's switch over to mindfulness at work. Mindfulness influences in very next moment. So this is what it looked like in the light of day, all burned. So I'd like to talk to you about mindfulness in the workplace and where we are at right now. So I created this diagram to show you, and the curve going up is about how many new companies are adopting mindfulness in their workplace. And when the curve goes down, that doesn't mean that people or companies are dropping the practice. It means fewer new companies are coming on board. So I'll just explain that a little bit. The innovators are visionaries. So they're the companies that really are the first ones to do it, like Google and Aetna Insurance. And I think when I did this at Pacific Blue Cross, that falls into that category because it was 2011. Early adopters are the enthusiasts and the people who aren't afraid of a challenge. They're okay doing this even though maybe most of the world isn't doing it yet. The chasm is the point in time where this concept is challenged, that we have to prove that it works, and that's when research happens and data starts coming out. The early majority is when people feel safe to do it. The late majority are companies that do this just because everybody else is doing it. And the laggards are the last ones on board. So I think we are here right now. And that's moving pretty quickly because I was talking at ACMP last year and I had that sunburst just after the chasm. But when I talk to companies around the world, I'm getting a sense of how much people are coming on board, and there's more and more companies all the time interested but just not sure how to introduce it in a business way that will be credible and believable. So talking a little bit about the data for those of you who like data. This is from the University of Rochester, and they said mindful employees are less frustrated even in unsupportive managerial environments. Mindfulness acts as a protective factor in controlling work environments. So how does this relate to change management? Well, I think, when people go through change, they feel like victims. A lot of people feel like victims. Executives are just doing this to us and they don't really care what we think, right? So that's how most people feel when they're going through tough change. So how it relates to this statement is mindfulness acts as a protective factor. So it helps people feel safe, more protected, and resilient to the changes that are going on around them. And I think the change management opportunity is this, that if you start to offer mindfulness in the workplace with change management, which I'll talk about in a moment, it can really help people feel less victimized and more in control of their experience. Yeah? So at Pacific Blue Cross, I took those 180 people who were coming to class and I asked them this question. And I said, how would you rate your personal resiliency before coming to any of the meditation classes and coming to at least 5 of the classes? And the red shows how before coming to any classes, most people self-rated their resiliency as low to moderate. After coming to the classes in the green, coming to at least 5 classes, 72% said their resiliency was high. So if you look at the high category, it was 12% before taking any classes, and now it's at 72%. So that's a 600% increase. So I thought that was pretty incredible. And this is one of the things that led me to write, the white paper for ACMP a few years ago. Excuse me. The one question I get all the time is, sure, that all sounds really good, but does doing mindfulness at work save the company money? I get that a lot, especially for absenteeism and disability leaves. So I want to give you some information about that in a moment to take back. So under the innovators category, Aetna Insurance, how many people have heard that Aetna Insurance did this? A few people? It was on the news a lot a few years ago. They did a 12-week mindfulness and yoga program, and they found that employees were more productive and less stressed. They saved $3,000 per employee per year in their healthcare costs. So that's a hard number. And they found it was an 11-to-1 return on investment. Google was one of the first companies, and they have a really popular program. It's kind of a emotional intelligence program called Search Inside Yourself. That's so popular that there's a 5-month wait list for employees to go on this course. But what they found, it was about 6 months later, the practice dropped for people. They were all excited about it at the beginning, but 6 months later, they weren't really doing the practice anymore. So they needed to sustain the benefits, and now they're training up facilitators around the world in their offices to run daily, not weekly, mindfulness sessions. And they're using my course to do that. So it's been really fun working with them. Coca-Cola recently did a pilot and look at their results. 98% said that it helped them through stress. 92% improved their ability to focus at work. 86% improved their time management skills. Now, St. Joseph's is a hospital in the Toronto, Ontario area. And one of the questions I get a lot from healthcare type organizations is, how do you deal with people who are shift workers? It's all well and good when you're dealing with people who work 9 to 5 and you can offer a lunchtime session, but how do you deal with it for shift workers? And my answer to that is always that what you need to do is offer a few different things, because some of them are office workers, so offering weekly mindfulness sessions, doing that, but as well offering sessions to teach people how to do mindfulness themselves during the day was also very powerful, and that's what they did. So they got significant decreases in depression, anxiety, and stress, 14.7% decrease in long-term disability claims, and 31% decrease in average days lost, which relates to absenteeism. Isn't that great? Yes.
How long of a time period was that when they started until the data?
How long of a time period was that? I don't have that information, but I could get it. The article that I was reading didn't have too much detail, but if you remind me and get in touch with me, I can find that out. Thank you. So getting back to this wonderful topic that you're all probably curious about, change management is dead. What is that all about? Well, I think it was all about being provocative. I don't think change management's dead. You don't have to be looking for a new job at all. It's really to get us thinking. And the reporter that talked to me and interviewed me was really talking about the fact that with digital transformation upon us, we need to be acting differently as change managers. Now, all the methodologies and change readiness assessments, they all have their place. Those are good, but we're not paying attention enough to the human side and the individual side. That's what this is all about, okay? Real change happens one individual at a time, so tap into each person's personal reality and what they're going through regarding the change. I see people nodding their heads. We know that, right? We do know that, but so often we get sidetracked to working on sort of these corporate type things, and we're not paying enough attention to the individual. So I think mindfulness meditation and change management really results in change resiliency. Now, how many people know what the digital transformation thing is all about? Just a few. Okay, to be honest with you, I didn't really know. I couldn't define it either, so it's okay that you don't know. So I looked it up, and it says, digital transformation is a profound acceleration of the digital technology. So things like cloud computing and big data. Now, this is coming at us so quickly that the speed of business process and business transformation is accelerating even faster. So the purpose of this article that I was interviewed for, and I've seen articles since then that say the same thing, is that the companies that aren't doing a good enough job tapping into the individual's journey through change are going to feel that pain many times more with this acceleration with the digital transformation. A little bit scary, right? But this is what these articles are starting to do, is get us thinking about the individual. And I was speaking with somebody recently who said there's no such thing as there's no such thing as organizational change. What we do have is a bunch of individuals who are experiencing change at the same time. So again, we have to pay attention to the individual. Okay? So this slide is very important. I'm going to ask you to really pay attention to this one because I'm going to be asking you to explain this briefly to your neighbor in a moment. So yes, you're paying attention now. So why add change management to meditation? Here's how I describe it. To help employees go deeper into their own self-awareness, to be more intentional about their actions and behaviors. To move them from what's called the stress response to the relaxation response. And this, when they're in the relaxation response state, this is when resiliency and learning to do things a new way can really happen. So I'll explain this a little bit more. Would you agree that people generally want to do well? Yes, right? They do want to do well. They do want to be part of a successful organization, but they're too busy being busy. They're too busy with this monkey mind. How many people have heard of the monkey mind? Some of you. Monkey mind is when your thoughts are just jumping around all over the place and they're kind of disparate thoughts that really don't serve any purpose except to stress you out. That's called the monkey mind, and that's why I called my business the Calm Monkey, by the way. Okay. We're so busy with our lives, we're so busy interacting and being on autopilot and reacting, and we're not really paying attention to what we're doing. We can help people wake up and help them realize how they're showing up in a change. So we're living in this crazy, busy world. We're living in survival mode. And when we're living in survival mode, you know what it's like. You're running around dealing with one thing and the next burning thing, and you really don't have time to really just think about things and think about how you're reacting to something. And sometimes you might go to a meeting about a change and you've reacted and then you feel badly afterwards, oh, I shouldn't have been so negative, something like that, right? This is what it's like being in survival mode. And when we move people from the survival mode, which is the stress response, and we move them to the relaxation response, we can help them change. So life is just really overwhelming. Somebody I really respect said to me recently, you know, I'm so busy, I can't even listen anymore. And this is a senior person in an organization, and she said, my boss keeps talking to me, I can't even hear what she's saying anymore. Right? You can relate to this, I think. And she says meditation, she knows, can give you your control back. Okay. So again, just briefly, I'm going to say meditation moves you from the stress response to the relaxation response, where change can happen easier for people and they can learn things better. So can I ask you to turn to your neighbor beside you, and you'll have a minute just to explain why add change management to meditation. On? Okay, everybody? Thank you very much. Wow, that really sparked a lot of conversation, didn't it? Thank you very much for participating in that. I'd like to continue now. Thank you. Lots to say, lots to say. That's wonderful, wonderful. So, this slide, it shows very briefly that when I was at Pacific Blue Cross, I had the group that I was doing the mindfulness for, they were going through a really stressful implementation that changed every job in the company. It was a 7-year technology transformation project, which you all know wasn't just a technology transformation project. It changed all the jobs and all the business processes. Everybody was really stressed out, big time, really didn't think it was ever going to happen. And what I did with the people that were coming to the meditation class, I said, please be mindful about your mindfulness practice, meaning pay attention to how much you're doing this. And 5 months after the implementation, I asked them this question: how much did mindfulness meditation help you through the big system implementation? And along the left-hand side is how people could have responded. And I circled the top 3 bars because that represents that 83% of the respondents said that having a mindfulness meditation practice helped them moderately to significantly through the change. That was really compelling, and that went into my white paper as well. If you go to my website, you can get my white paper and read about that. The executives deemed the project as a change management success from a human perspective. The technology side was a different story. It was really, really difficult, but people were so committed and they were really working as a team for problem solving, so really important results there. One of my most notorious resistors said to me, running meditation is the single most important thing that this company is doing to help us through this horrific project. And I was just so touched to hear that wow, I didn't expect that at all. So meditation study. I created a special recording that's 15 minutes long called Dealing with Change. And what I do is I get people into that relaxation state and then get them to recognize how they're showing up in the change. How are they reacting? How are they behaving? And then I get them to think about how they would rather show up in that change. What kind of experience do they want in that change? And this is a meditation I'm going to do with you in a moment, but a very, very short version of that, just to give you a taste of it. So I did a study using this recording that I created, and I asked the participants to think of a work-related change that they were finding very challenging, and they would do this 15-minute meditation at least 3 times in a 2-week period. And again, it guided them through self-reflection of their reactions and setting an intention for a preferred experience. So the question I asked them afterwards is, are you more self-aware of your reactions to the change? And 100% of people said yes. And the second one was, your ability to deal with the change has become worse, no change, or better. And the 2 rightmost bars indicate 89% of the people said it improved their ability to deal with their change. So thinking about this a little bit, so when you're dealing with a very difficult change, what you can do is change your own experience with that change, even though the things around you aren't changing. Does that make sense? So when you tap into the person's individual journey and help them regard it differently and have them be more self-aware of how they're going through that journey, that's the magic of what we're talking about here. So are you ready to try this meditation? Yes. Thank you. So it's going to be just a few minutes long. If you don't want to do this for any reason, that's okay. You can just sit quietly and think about where you're going to have dinner tonight, whatever you'd like to think about. All right, so I'll just cue the music. A little bit change. A little bit of music to set the mood. If you haven't done meditation before, it's okay. This is all guided. and I'll step you through the whole thing. So thank you so much. I'd like you to have your feet flat on the floor, please. And if there's anything in your hand, just put that on the floor or beside you. And I hope you enjoy the next few moments. So I'd like you to sit up tall in your chair. I'd like you to sit relaxed, but I'd like you to sit up tall in your chair. So you're using your back muscles to sit tall. I want you to sit a little bit differently than you normally sit, but relaxed, okay? And I'll invite you to close your eyes gently. And I'll ask you to think about one change in your life that you're going through right now that you're finding challenging. A personal change or a work change. I'd like you to also give yourself permission to let go of your busy, busy day. Let go of the conference and be here and be present. And I'd like you to start by taking a few deep breaths and really feeling those breaths in your body. And if you become distracted at all, that's okay. Just recognize that and refocus. Now, think about that change that you're having difficulty with. And immerse yourself in that situation right now. Feel yourself in that situation. And feel the effect that that has on your body. Do your best to identify your reactions, your emotions, as honestly as you can. What are you feeling? You may be feeling annoyed, angry, uncertain, surprised, or something different. Allow yourself to identify and feel the natural human responses. There's no right or wrong. And don't be hard on yourself for feeling these things. And now for the next few moments, I'd like you to envision how you might carry yourself differently, more calmly, as you work through the change. What experience do you want to have through this change? How would you carry yourself differently if you were calmer? And how would you behave when interacting with others? Imagine yourself in that state of having more control, of being calmer. And now feel how you feel in your body right now as you think of yourself in this new state. I'd like you to now take a few intentional deep breaths again. Feel that in your body, relax your abdomen, and allow that breath to go deep into your belly. I'd like you to move your feet a little bit and feel the connection of your feet to the floor. And slowly open your eyes. How was that? It was very quick. I wish I had more time to do that. But you can get a taste, hopefully, of what that would be like, getting them into relaxation mode, being self-aware of their reactions, and then creating the experience that they want to have in that change. So I need to move on. And just really quickly, I'd like to leave you with some tips of the things that you could do in your workplace. And they're very easy things. They're not difficult at all. If you want to introduce mindfulness into your workplace, you can bring in guest speakers. You can have guided meditation recordings that you have available for people individually or as a group. You can round up employees to be facilitators. So this is really the most effective way of doing that. Teach them how to get management support and skill them up with the skills of how to be a facilitator, how to lead a guided meditation, how to run a really good program. And then you measure it from a business perspective, not a woo-woo perspective. My friends in 2011 used to call me Woo-Woo Wendy because this was such a strange topic to talk about, but now it's very mainstream, so I don't get called that anymore. And then you can learn to add change management to the meditation, which is what you just experienced. And that will boost people's resiliency. And look at that, more conscious behavior. Wouldn't that be something? To see people behaving more consciously in their lives and in their workplace. And getting more commitment to change. Like, this was just a small example, but we can work in things like problem solving. When you go through change, you want people to be working together as a team to problem solve. So we can add that kind of thing into the meditation as well. There's lots of different ways to do that. Lowering stress, of course, and better learning. So that was a brief introduction to the topic. And I feel that I would have done my job if I helped you become more interested in having a mindfulness meditation practice personally, or even better yet, helping other people and helping to introduce it in your workplace. Yeah. Are there any questions for me? Yes. So a question about how to how to implement mindfulness meditation for virtual teams.
Yes.
Yeah. So when people aren't together in the same office,
Yes.
You know, through video conference is effective, and Google does that as well. So one would think it's not very effective, but people are so used to video conference now that it works. Yeah. Thank you for the question. Is there anything else? Oh yes.
Really just a comment, but I believe this is, in Texas, they were dealing with some young students in schools that were having behavioral issues or whatever, and instead of sending them to detention, like and putting you in the cafeteria,
Yes.
they were having them do meditation. So and I hadn't heard the results of that, but I think it's interesting.
And that was in Texas, you think? So it's happening more. There was an article in the Huffington Post about 8 months ago. A school in Baltimore, an elementary school in Baltimore, replaced detention with meditation. And it was just amazing. And it was actually one of my students who did that program and collected that data. So yeah, absolutely. If we can teach kids to do this, I wish I knew this when I was younger. I only learned this in 2010. Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
So, thank you. I see so much tremendous value in bringing this to organizations.
Thank you.
So I want your help, maybe to explain how do you convince people so that again they don't say that you're bringing in such a fluffy concept.
Yes.
How do you get that?
That's a great question. Yeah, that's what I find is to bring somebody in, bring a speaker in. This is one of the things that I do, and I do this from a business perspective, kind of similar to what you're seeing me do now. Because what you have to do is right off the bat, dispel the myth that it's religious-based. It doesn't have to be religious-based at all. It doesn't have to be woo-woo or anything like that. So you need to tie it to the business and bring in, there's lots, and I can, if you send me an email, I'd be happy to share with you a lot of really good research and articles all around this, tying it to the business, that it calms people down, it creates clearer thinking, better judgment, less stress, all those wonderful things. So people's production is higher and they're more effective. So that's what you do right off the bat, dispel the myths and make sure that you show articles that make sense for your business. And if you have a speaker come in and they talk about it in a business sense, that's the first thing. The result of that is always people wanting to start mindfulness in the workplace after that, now that they understand what it is. Yeah. Thank you for the question. Okay, we have to wrap up. Yep. And thank you so much. Please fill out the session survey as well. Thank you. Thank you.